Welcome back to My Conscious Dad on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. If you're just joining us, today we're talking about the power of vulnerability. So before we went on the break, you said you wanted to go over some examples.
Yeah, and I want to state that first off, they're not my examples. They're got this from Brene Brown. She does an amazing TED Talk about the power of vulnerability, and you can search that up on Google or YouTube or wherever you go and find your videos. And it's pretty a phenomenal video. But she breaks down some of the examples of being vulnerable, and I love them, so I'm going to share them. The first one is being willing to say "I love you" first. Is an example of being vulnerable, because two people that have their walls up in a relationship, how do you know you love each other until one person is willing to kind of go there first and be willing to express themselves? I think also giving yourself permission to express yourself in the first place takes a little bit of vulnerability. Being willing to do something where there are no guarantees. So, like putting yourself out there, maybe even making declarations. Hey, I'm committed to X, Y, and Z by next December 13th or something like that. By you making declarations or going out there or starting a goal, being willing to kind of take some of those risks and get out of your comfort zone is bringing your walls down and being vulnerable. Also, being willing to breathe through waiting for the doctor to call while waiting for maybe some test results that you think. And you just having the courage to really kind of, sit through it and breathe, deeply and be patient and kind of go through that process as well. Being willing to invest into a relationship that may or may not work, that takes some vulnerability. You got to bring your wall down and trust them. And you got to, again, take some risks, right? You don't know. There's no guarantee in that. You don't know if you're giving and what you're contributing is actually going to pay off. I think a lot of times we want guarantees in life. We want like the for sure thing, and a lot of times it doesn't happen like that. Another thing, when it comes to couples, is initiating sex, because you can be turned down. So there's some vulnerability in that. And again, being turned down or rejected, or maybe asking someone out on a date would take some vulnerability. And there's that thought that you have that, well, what if she says no? Or what if, you probably have worst case scenarios, right? Our brain is so powerful, we create these crazy ideas.
Right, she's going to say no, and then all of a sudden
and slap me or something, right? How about getting laid off? Take some vulnerability, or even kind of sharing that news with people, or laying someone off. That takes some vulnerability. You got to go into a room and you got to kind of break the bad news.
Even quitting your job could be a little vulnerable. You don't necessarily have anything else, but you don't want to do this.
That's
so you
right.
quit, and hopefully something is going to come up for you.
And so what this really, for me, really breaks this down to is mustering up the courage. It really takes courage to dig down deep and be willing to bring some walls down. In fact, one of the notes I wrote down about what Brene says is that courage means to tell your story with your whole heart. And I love that, because it really does take courage to be vulnerable. Why would you need courage? Courage for what? Why would somebody need courage to be vulnerable?
I think you kind of have, because you're taking that wall down, and now anybody could potentially hurt you.
Yeah.
Or
you're risking pain. You're
right.
risking rejection. You're risking being hurt or let down or disappointed. And I think that our egos, our unconsciousness, and in our egos, our ego doesn't want us to be hurt. It doesn't want us to feel pain. So what it does is it keeps the wall up. It doesn't want us to be vulnerable. This is why I talk about being conscious and being aware and being spirit-driven. Your spirit's always telling you, trust, bring your wall down, give your heart away. It's okay to be hurt a third time, a 12th time. It wants you to experience the joys of having love and companionship and joy and all those great things. But you can't get those. You can't attain those kinds of experiences with your walls up. It's like trying to go swimming and expect yourself not to get wet. It contradicts itself. So if you're going to experience joy and love and deep, meaningful relationships, you're going to get hurt. It's just part of the game. You just got to learn to accept that, or if you learn how to create a new relationship around being hurt, Create a new idea or a new concept or give it different meaning. Being hurt doesn't mean it's not a bad thing anymore. Just choose to see the goodness in getting hurt. That's a challenge for you, right?
All right. I remember a couple weeks ago in the SCV Women's Empowerment Workshop, you went over love, basically, and you were telling some of the women, including myself, you're saying that if you are going to enter into a relationship and you want to be loved, you are going to get hurt.
Absolutely.
And a lot of women were fighting that and they couldn't accept it. And at first it sounded so wrong to me as well. not gonna lie. I agreed with them. And after you going back and forth with them, and it was like a good 20 minutes of people not wanting to accept, and they all had something to say right back. I realized that, I was very lucky that I learned this 20 years before they did. And they have a lot of experience behind it that says it shouldn't be this way, but it is.
Absolutely. Loving people hurts. It is part of the game. Have you ever heard the distinction love equals pain? There's a point there where you love someone so much that it hurts. How do you know that? Well, when a loved one passes away, you feel pain. You got this gut pain inside of you, and so you're crying hysterically because you just lost someone that you love more than anything in the world, and it feels painful. So if love equals pain, there's a point there, a pivotal moment where you ask yourself, wait a minute, this gut hurt feeling here, is this pain or is this love? And can love and pain be interchangeable? Well, what if I just decided that love is pain and love equals pain and they're the one and the same? So when you love people, you're going to get hurt. It's part of the process. Or love and pain is the exact same thing. And so it opens up your eyes to a new possibility that why would I want to experience the love and reject the pain? Right? We talked about the yin and the yang last weekend, which was the personal power of loving. If you love one thing, you got to love the opposite. If you love joy, you gotta also love and embrace sadness, because without sadness, you don't know what joy feels like. Without joy, you don't know what sadness feels like. So learn to love all things. Learn to see all experiences as blessings.
All right. With the yin and the yang, it was kind of saying, I'm not exactly sure what it represents. Was
Polarity,
it
duality?
Right. And one cannot exist without the other.
That's right.
Which is kind of bizarre to think about.
Well, imagine only experiencing cold, and cold was all that existed. You would never know what warm feels like. And so one thing can't exist without the other. So
I think it can exist. It just wouldn't have meaning.
Well, that's what exist means. It would exist, but you wouldn't know how to call it. You wouldn't know how to explain it. But now you know the difference, because one thing has to have its opposite in our world for you to know the difference or the distinction between things. So why would you want one thing and then not want the other thing? It's almost like it's part of the game. This part of this game that we're in called life. God created and gave us the world that has one thing, and it also has its opposite. And so in order to be grateful for one thing, right? In order for you to be grateful for the love that you have, do you have to have experiencing the pain and the sadness?
Yeah.
Yeah. To really appreciate, man, I really love you, and I really love that you give to me and you listen to me and you honor me and you do this. Then you had to have had experience of the opposite of it for you to know that was great or that was something that you enjoy. You have to have had the opposite experience. You had to have been hurt or stepped on, or somebody not kept their word to you or took an advantage of you to be able to appreciate the love that you do have from this person. So why would you say, I don't want those experiences? You have to learn how to love all of it and embrace all of it.
I like how you said accepting love and pain as the same thing. It's kind of like when you do feel love, it's exciting. So if you kind of look at it like when you feel pain, you can kind of feel a little bit excited.
That's cool, because now you're starting to look at, how can I own this? How can I make this mine? How can I see it that way? And that's what this show is really about, is opening up new possibilities for you to see, rather than seeing it one way. Don't be one-dimensional. Keep your mind open to new possibilities. That's how we grow. And so I want to get now, after I went over some of the examples, I want to talk really a little bit about, how do we deal with vulnerability? Well, most of us, we numb it. we kind of check out. We don't want to feel it. And so you probably haven't been wanting to feel it for a long time. Maybe when you were 6 or 7, you got your feelings hurt, or somebody abandoned you or left you, or you felt some pain at a deep level that maybe you were traumatized. Most of us, I think, we were traumatized at some point in our life, and we just decided, we flipped a switch in our brain and said, you know what, I don't ever want to feel that again. And so we put these walls up, and we keep people away from us. We stay protected because your ego or your mind doesn't ever want you to experience that kind of pain. So now you don't let anyone in. You don't trust anybody. You don't really let anybody get really close to you, because there's that possibility that they could hurt you. But if you say you love them, then you allow them in to have the ability to hurt you. I'm not saying, love people and let them in so that they can hurt you. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is give them that gift. You have to trust people. So you hand that like a key to here's the key to my heart. You have it. And if you hurt me, you hurt me. It's part of the process. But in that hurt and in that pain, I get to still love that and embrace that, and decide day by day whether I still want to continue to be in that relationship with you.
It's great about that example. I know it sounds really cliche with the key and everything, but it's very, I guess, just the symbol of it is very powerful. Like you said, not letting people in just to hurt you, but knowing that they can, there's a lot of power in that. Absolutely.
I remember there's a movie called Schindler's List, and at the end there's a part in the movie where the gentleman's in the upstairs room where the guy was at the balcony, and he was shooting some of the prisoners, and he thought what great power, I can kill these people whenever I want. And the guy grabbed a rifle and said, no, that's not power. He says, power is knowing you can kill them whenever you want and not doing it. And so when you take that into what you just talked about, it's, I give you the key to my heart, knowing you can hurt me, and I still give it to you anyways. That's what power is. And trusting people. Trust is the key to you feeling the joy and love and deep, meaningful relationships. Without it, you're not going to create that kind of experience. What I want to talk about when we talk about dealing with vulnerability and how we deal with it, that we numb ourselves out. Here's the crazy thing. You can't numb specific emotions. You can't be selective on, well, I only want to numb all the negative feelings, and then I'm going to be open to feeling 100% all the joyful and loving and grateful moments. When the machine is a one kind of machine that just goes right across the board. When you numb all of it out. So if you're numbing yourself out, even like with addiction, if you're numbing yourself out with alcohol or drugs or anything that you're numbing yourself out with, or just numbing yourself out, meaning I'm not going to feel what I'm feeling, you're doing it all the way across the board. So if you're numbing yourself from feeling any vulnerability or being hurt or taken advantage of, then it means you can't really feel joy and love to its full capacity. So it means you're numbing yourself out from feeling the hurt and the pain at a 20%. So I've numbed myself, so I can only feel that at a 20%. That means that you're only feeling love at a 20%. You can't. The wall's not split in half where you can just control it. It's one wall, goes up, goes down, and so the trick is to decide what game you want to play. And I think that it's powerful for you to say, I'm going to play the game where I get to feel it all, and decide that your purpose in life is to experience all your experiences. Good, bad, right, wrong, the ugly, whatever. Take it all and be grateful for all of them. And bring that wall down and be willing to be hurt, be willing to, go through those pains, be willing to make sense of them, be willing to change your perspective about how you see it so that it empowers you, rather than just sticking to that one perspective and only seeing it like it's done to you as the victim. And so I think it's really about you deciding how you want to live your life. Do you want to? For me, I'd rather love 1,000,000 times and get hurt 1,000,000 times than never love at all. And that's probably a bumper sticker or some kind of quote. But when I heard it, it was like, man, it resonated with me. It was like, yeah, I'm right behind that. I'd much rather love, and at the end of my life, feeling like I gave my heart away, that I used it to its full capacity. I want to be all used up when I'm done. I want to give it all away. And that's the part. That's the part that that's challenging, is giving it away wholeheartedly without conditions, and just being used for a purpose, and realizing your purpose is to serve and to contribute and to teach and to love anyway. I think that Mother Teresa nailed it right on the head when she said, "Love anyway." And I know she has a powerful quote that talks about love anyway, and just keep giving it away. And that's really a decision that you have to make in your life. Do you want to live your life guarded and protected and play small, or do you want to be out there just giving it away and live fully in the glory of all that's possible for you?
I think a couple weeks ago we kind of were talking a little bit about loving and giving unconditionally, and I think that kind of, well, it definitely falls in with vulnerability. I think when you're being vulnerable, you can't just be a little bit vulnerable. You have
it's
to
like
be
a little bit pregnant.
Yeah, you have to be unconditionally vulnerable.
Yeah, you're either pregnant or you're not, and you're either vulnerable or you're not. And vulnerability is, it could be a powerful thing if you choose to start seeing it like that. You got to remember, you're the meaning maker to everything. You're deciding what is and what isn't, and you can create a new relationship with your emotions and decide that it's how I want to live my life. But you got to choose one. You can't be on the fence going, I don't know which one. You got to decide, either get on or get off. Either shut down and close and protect yourself. And I know I say this all the time, and I probably offend pet owners, but get yourself a dog and hide out and never have relationships ever again, and be loved unconditionally by this animal that just loves you unconditionally. Or decide, no, I want to play the game. I want to be loved and to love other people. And if I'm going to get hurt, then I'm willing to step up and be the champion and take it. It's like you got to work. It's hard. It's challenging. You got to go out there and you got to give it away.
And it's something I think you have to constantly be practicing. I mean, I've known all this information, or I've been given this information, taught literally since the day I was born. And I still am out there going to workshops and, giving my weekends up at trainings and events. And you're never going to get there. Or I'm never going to get there. There's always going to be more to learn. I can always be more vulnerable.
Well, the learning is just for you to keep getting at a higher level of awareness, so that when you're out in your real life, it comes more like breathing and you actually implement it. Because going to all these seminars and all this work you're doing and reading books and getting all the knowledge, it's not good enough. It's not good enough to know it. You actually have to have the courage to implement it in your real life, in your real relationships, day to day, minute by minute, hour by hour. You got to put it to work.
Sounds great. We'll get more to it after the break. Stay tuned for more of My Conscious Dad right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Welcome back to My Conscious Dad on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. If you're just joining us, today we discuss the power of vulnerability. If you missed any of it or you want to hear it again, you can always find our podcasts online. Right now, we're going to go ahead and go over a quick recap of what you missed.
We talked about letting people see the real you.
We talked about vulnerability often being seen as a sign of weakness.
We talked about vulnerability can be replaced by trust.
We talked about letting our walls down.
We talked about there's a possibility that you could be vulnerable and not even know it.
We talked about vulnerability not being a negative.
We talked about making declarations shows vulnerability in your ability to possibly not achieving it.
Leading by example and opening up will invite others.
We talked about it takes courage to break down some of your walls.
We all want a human connection.
We talked about love equals pain.
We talked about the power in clarity.
And we talked about if you want to love and be in relationships, you got to be willing to be hurt.
We talked about investing in relationships. I actually have a bunch more, so I'm going to keep going. Our egos keep our walls up. We talked about blocking certain emotions. Actually, we talked about how you can't block certain emotions, that you're actually blocking all your emotions. And we talked about vulnerability being a powerful thing if you choose it. So next week, we're going to be talking about discovering our purpose. What does that mean?
When you say our purpose, do you have a mouse in your pocket?
Okay.
What do you mean by it?
We're going to be talking about my purpose, discovering my purpose specifically.
Yeah, everybody has a purpose, why they're alive, why they were given birth, why they were given this chance to live in this lifetime. And I think that, for me, it was the greatest moment in my life was recognizing what my purpose was, but it didn't just fall in my lap. I went on a conscious journey to discover what that purpose is. And, we're going to break down the distinctions of how to get there and what are some of the signs to know if you're on the right path and all those kinds of goodies.
I have a very important question that we probably will have to get to next week, but do you think there's only one purpose? Everybody only has one purpose?
I don't know. I'm not, the guru about purpose. I know that for me, I have one main purpose, but there's other things that I do that encompasses that main purpose. So I do several things. I think that when you're purpose driven, you get clear about what your purpose is, but it all of a sudden opens up other doors for you to do other things. But I think that the purpose is that main overall, the big kahuna. And some people, they get so overwhelmed, like, oh my God, I don't know what it is. And it's a journey. You're going to have to consciously decide to go after it, to figure it out. And I think that's what kind of qualifies you. It's like you're getting pre-qualified right now. If you don't know what it is and you're choosing still not to know what it is, there's a bunch of dysfunctions that could be going on with you. Not in a bad way. It's just where you are. It's just you're part of your journey. You're going to have to push through some of those dysfunctions and decide that you want to embark on it. And then once, you ever heard the axiom, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear? Well, you're the student waiting to decide whether you want to embark on that journey. And when you do, all of a sudden the teachers around you will start to show up and you'll be clear about who they are to help you figure out what that is. Yeah,
and one thing I can't wait to talk about next week is being young and trying to find your purpose. 'Cause it's very scary, it's very challenging, and I think a lot of people my age and younger are going through that right now, where they think that they have to know right now.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that sabotages young people, is that it's like, you and your sister are like notorious for come in your room like, what's the matter? It's like, oh, Dad, I don't know my purpose. And I'm like, are you kidding me? They're 80-year-olds that still don't know their purpose. It's like, be grateful that you're even aware of it, or even talking about it, that you even want that. I mean, most kids right now are so caught up in, money and being successful. They're not even thinking purpose. It's a whole nother level. It's a higher level of consciousness. And, you guys are really hard on yourself, and you don't have to be giving to yourself, be compassionate, and understand that it is a process, and just go through it step by step, day by day. You'll figure it out.
Well, can't wait to get to it next week. Thank you so much for joining us today on My Conscious Dad with me, Jasmine Urbina, and my dad, Alex Urbina. We're here every Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.